Good afternoon and welcome to the first of our Nautilus Masterclasses. Thanks for popping in if you've managed to find a little bit of time today. If you haven't, hopefully the video will be helpful for you to pick it up and share, take a look and revisit things as well. Today we're going to take a little look at adding users, and we're going to look at what it looks like for different users and different views. So some really useful things, particularly at the start of the year, I think, to take a look at. And then next week, we'll start to follow on that and start to think about some partnership walks and things like that too. So the chat is open for those who are with us this afternoon. So feel free to say hi or to ask any questions in there as we go along. I'll pick them up really as we get towards the end of the session. I'm going to try not to talk too fast, and I'm going to try not to cover too much as well, but it's basically going to be a screen share. So I'll pop this on the screen and then we'll take it from there. Hopefully you've had a really good start to the year. I was really looking forward to this session because this is a little bit different to the other ones. Well, first of all, it's shorter, which is nicer, but it's all well for Nautilus users, whereas the other things can quite often be promos and things like that. Okay, so let's just take a little bit of time to unpick what we're doing when we add users. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of move between a priority user to a leadership user and to a user so that you can see what each view looks like and what everybody might see. So the prime reason really we're starting here is at the start of the year, you may have people coming and going. So you might have people, no doubt, that are leaving and your new recruits too. So you might be adding them to the system, but you might also be onboarding staff as well. So I'm going to show you some easy ways and cover quite a lot of things. Just a couple of things to recap. Firstly, we don't charge per user. So add as many people to the system as you can. The whole idea is that you add your internal and your external leaders and build up this team of people who can all contribute to your school self-evaluation, and you get that external validation. And where you've got partnerships across schools, add them to the system and then they can be involved. And I'll talk a little bit more about how best to do that. So here we're going to add name and email address. It's nice and quick, nice and simple, as you know. Sends out an email then for your colleague to log in, and that's automated as soon as that goes out. The thing that I want to focus on really today is the roles. So sorry, the access and the responsibilities. So just think of it like this. It depends what you need to see. It depends on your accountability. So a priority user, if you're accountable for the whole school, accountable or responsible for teaching and learning, or if you're a senior leader or an exec head, and again, you need to see the entire overview, that would be you. That also means that you can administrate. So you can add people to the system, you can remove people from the system, you can manage things as well. So that's what a priority user can see and can do. And I'm a priority user here. So everything that you see here is pretty much what a priority user would see, apart from one little icon, which is just on my system. So that's for me to manage the platform, and that's the one second on the right there next to the settings. Okay, so the priority user. So leadership user, we can assign responsibilities and we can create a dashboard for them too. And if we create assign them responsibilities, we can then decide what they need to be able to see. Now, they don't have to be able to be assigned responsibilities. You can just leave it so that they don't have any. But if we check that box, then ultimately we can then assign one responsibility or more. So they can have multiple responsibilities and they can see different things on their dashboard. So if I set this person up as an art leader, they will have an art dashboard. If I put art and DT, they can toggle between the two of those. If we want to add somebody as a leadership user, then they can contribute to the process, but they don't need to see any of the data. So basically that could be an external partner, a school leader from the school down the road. It could also be a governor or local authority or anything like that. So that's somebody who may validate and be involved. But it could also be, if you don't want them to see any of the data, or if they don't need to, rather, it could also be an ECT, or it could be a new member of staff. It could be a member of support system. a new support system. Okay, so let's just take a little look. Before we take a little look at what each one sees, let me just cancel this and do this again. So one thing to mention as we do this, if you are starting out for the first time and you're adding users to the system and you're unsure and you're rolling out the process as you go, one thing that we could suggest is to add pretty much everybody as a user. That means everybody's on the system. Everybody gets an opportunity to log in. All of those people can see the gallery. There can also be assigned learning walks if you assign one for them or a colleague. So adding people as a user just means that they start to access the system. And that's a good message. There's an opportunity there to let them know that they're going to be able to use it too. So if you're not sure, add everybody as a user. Once you've added staff as a user, what you can then do is upgrade them as you go along. So as you start to kind of onboard staff, then what we can do is we can take somebody here, for example, Casey, who is a user, a learning mentor there, and I can click on there and I can upgrade them at any point to priority user. And so that means that then I could assign them a responsibility. If I assign them a responsibility, that means that they can perform learning walks themselves. So they can create a learning walk for art or DT. They can also see the dashboard as well. So it's good. It's a good way to sort of gradually manage the process as you start to onboard your colleagues. And that's a good way to work, I think. Not forgetting that priority user, you might start by adding another colleague. So if you're a head, it might be that you have a deputy head teacher working with you, and obviously in your absence, they can access that too. But that's really it. After that, adding people as users, upgrading them as you go is a good way to be able to manage the system. We don't have to put everybody on the system and assign them responsibilities straight away if we don't want, although you can. It's not a problem. But if you just want to manage more carefully. When you add somebody to the system as well, it's worth mentioning here, there's a little box that says create observable staff. What that means is you're adding an observer, so somebody who can perform a learning walk or an observation, or you're adding anybody to the system there and deciding what they need to see. But you're also checking a box to say that they're in class too. And as soon as you add them to the system and that box is checked, that will populate and that will put them into here as well automatically. So that means they're kind of dual registered. They're registered as a leader, as a somebody who could observe, somebody who contributes to the process, but also is in class. If you uncheck it, then ultimately that's likely it could be somebody like an external partner. You're not going to want a school improvement partner. You're not going to want them in the class as well. Okay, so that's what those boxes mean. The 360 exec viewer as well, if you check that box, that means that they've got the overview on the 360 as well. If you're using the 360 that's integrated with your appraisals, then check that box, and that means that that person, if you want to do, it's the equivalent, if you like, to a priority user. Okay, so I've added all of my team here, and I've added them and assigned them responsibilities over time. And I've clicked on the spanner there to be able to kind of assign responsibilities or make changes. I can also click on here as well. Don't forget down here to delete, but we can't delete priority users, by the way. So if you want to delete a priority user, downgrade them to a leadership user and then delete them. But down here, as you can see, we can delete them from here, and we can also just separately, if we need to do, delete them from here. So you can see there, as I mentioned, with them being sort of dual registered in the class as well. Okay, so we've added everybody to the system, assigned their responsibilities, or just added them as users with a view to kind of upgrading them as we go along. We can also use a CSV if we want to do. We added that over the summer. And that just means we can bulk upload. Really, that's kind of designed for big schools. We've got some schools which, some big high schools and things where you can export it from Integris or whatever, and then you can upload it, doing it that way. But I think once you're still on the system, you've still got to assign those roles and manage it. So it's no harm really, just putting people in and making sure that it's right at the start of the year with all your leaders. And like I say, add all of those external leaders too. Have a little chat with your colleagues down the road, so you can do moderation and peer reviews and those kind of things. And that's the real benefits when you work with those colleagues. Okay, so I'm a priority user. So if you look at the top, you can see, looking at the icons up here, what a priority user would see. So apart from the button that says system, everything else is what you would see if you were a priority user. If I log out of here now, and I log in as one of my, actually I'll log in here. And so what I've done now is logged in as a leadership user. So you can kind of see what my leadership user will see. And also this leader, Ned, in my school has a responsibility for English. So Ned's dashboard here is English. And so he can see the full range of English work that we've done. We can see the outcomes for English, and we can see the outcomes down here for English as well. So we can see how that dashboard has been sort of narrowed down so it doesn't have that wider view. And if you look at the filter, you can see it's automatically filtered by English. And if we go down to the create area to set up a learning walk, you'll see that there's no users area, so they can't administrate anything. Down here, you can see we can create a learning walk, but it's English. And that's for a leadership user. So that's when the responsibilities have been assigned. And as I mentioned at the beginning, you don't have to assign responsibilities if you don't want, but you can. Okay, so let's take a little look and log out of a leadership user. And let's come into here and let's log in as Impy. And Impy is a user. So again, you can see how those buttons are reduced up at the top. And what we can see here as Impy logs in is any learning walks that he's been assigned. So that's somebody else assigning them to Impy so they can contribute. So that's a great way to be able to involve people in kind of the whole process, book studies and things like that. There's no reason why not once they're in school. They can see obviously what they capture in their own workflow. So you can see what Impy sees and the commentary that he's added to the system. And then you can see they can access the gallery as well. So we would want all of the users to be able to access the gallery, and that just enables them to be able to come into here. So for example, if Impy is a new teacher, obviously new to year 6, and he's doing some writing, then they can come into here and they can see what the standards should look like. So you can use those samples, and that's where the gallery is really, really helpful, particularly for all users. So that's what a user would see, and you can see at the top there how the buttons have been reduced. And also, if we go over to the settings, those have been reduced as well, but they still have access to tech support and all those kind of things as well. So let's just log out of there, and let's log back in now as Jules Verne, priority user, and then we're back to as we were the priority user. Okay, so just thinking as we get a couple of minutes towards the end, what I don't want to do is kind of head off in a tangent. So I'm going to leave these couple of minutes spare, and in a moment I'll shut the screen down or shut my screen down. And then basically, if you still want to add any questions, I can help with those. So just whilst we're on the call now, if you've got any questions, just pop them into the chat and I'll pick them up. There's no daft questions. If you don't mind, I'm just going to ask, just in the interest of keeping this this nice and short, this session, are they related and are they to do with what we've been looking at today? If not, get in touch anyway. But can I help with anything really to cover or recap anything that we've taken a look at today with regards to adding observers? I won't talk for the sake of talking, but here you can see how we can manage this. And as I mentioned, now is a good time as we start to induct our new staff or staff enter and depart the school. Add, change them and upgrade them as you need to do. Quick recap as we add them. If you're not sure, add them as a user and upgrade as you go along from there. Otherwise, it looks like we're just about there. Next week, we're going to take a little look at working with somebody else to do a partner learning walk. So I want to kind of follow it along in a little bit of a thread So next week, I'm going to show you really how we can set up a learning walk with an internal leader and an external leader. So nicely following on from this, and just that idea of being able to utilize that wider expertise. So for all of our external leaders, and you can see mine down here, inviting them in, showing them how we can prepare one, and then getting into the classrooms together to do that exercise together. Okay, I'll conclude things there. Thanks for coming in today. Enjoy the video. If there's anything else, get in touch. If you need any help or support, you know where we are, and have a really great evening. Nice to see you all. Bye.